10 years ago, we started a school in Springfield, Massachusetts, and we did it in partnership with founding teachers, families, and most important, founding students. A fisherman and a spoken word poet, a science fiction writer and a runner, an orator and a listener, a shoulder to lean on and someone to kick you in the ass when you need it. Edward Brown is Springfield's Renaissance man. When Greg Farrell and his friends started this great school design adventure of ours, they had this quote from a guy named Tom James at Harvard. It goes like this: "To build a school is to proclaim what it means to be a human being." My hope for all of us is that every student we touch can become the extraordinary human being that is Edward Brown.
Who am I? I suppose it is the very question that men and women alike have spent their entire lives trying to answer. And I suppose the difficulty in the question lies in the fact that one's life is the proof of that answer. You are the life you live. Your thoughts, dreams, ambitions, desires, likes, and dislikes, all wrapped up into a single being. I am Edward Faustino Brown. Like many great men and women before me, I am here to stake my claim in this land, on this earth, and in this universe. But if I am to get all these things done in one lifetime, I had better start now, and this is just step one.
Good morning, everyone. I am humbled and honored to be standing before you this most lovely of Fridays at the EL Education Conference. I think it's always important that one takes stock of where they are in the present moment. A minute of introspection. Breathe in, examine all that they see before them, and breathe out. When I did that in coming here, my thoughts were brought to a few things. I literally wouldn't be here at this conference if it wasn't for EL Education did for me. But beyond that, I wouldn't be at the position I am in life if it wasn't for Renaissance and EL and some of the values I gained from both that coalesced and helped me become the young man that I am. Forging my own character, understanding the importance of being part of a team, something larger than myself, and realizing education was one of the only forces that could level the playing field and get me to where I wanted to go and beyond. My parents stressed that last one especially. From birth to middle school, they read to me, and then we read books together. And they helped me nourish my love for reading and writing stories. Now I've realized that's part of what I want to do with my life. But I wouldn't have fully realized that without the aid of my teachers and peers. I was lost. I thought at that time in 10th and 11th grade, I wanted to animate and do graphic design. I tried them both for some time, and I detested them. I was also grappling with what it meant to be a person of color, specifically a biracial black man, a Hispanic man, after studying a history of slavery, colonization, and imperialism in U.S. history class. I was awash in a sea of uncertainty, and I got upset. I yelled at some of my peers who didn't understand what I was going through. I questioned all I had done thus far. But instead of drowning, my crewmates and my crew teacher, Mr. Wright, pulled me out of the water. They helped me see that uncertainty was just another opportunity, that this search for meaning and purpose would be a long one, but worth it, and that I had a team alongside me asking themselves some of the same questions I was about passion and identity. Did we always get along? No. There were political arguments, squabbles about who was hindering discussions and not allowing them to proceed. And when we did something that required everyone's participation, sometimes it didn't happen. We learned from the frustration and grew from the disappointment, like any family unit would. Crew was that home away from home where I wasn't alone, where people would hold me accountable and vice versa. I could not come up with excuses, only solutions and a plan to do things better and do things differently. My parents and friends were along the way with me as well. My English teachers, Mr. Stein and Mr. Trimmer, challenged me to write about my struggles, about others and myself, with varying degrees of rhetoric and in different forms. In writing personal essays, and in the reading we did in class about education theory, I was introduced to the idea of grit, a trait of those who bettered themselves. Grit meant taking failure and learning from it, not being discouraged by it, but improving upon the next attempt. It also meant accepting that which you couldn't control or had already been tried or had been done before, and that working harder and working smarter than you previously did could be the path to success. Yes, I was told that I was smart for most of my life, or special, but that's not necessarily what every kid needs to hear, and it's not only what I saw some kids should hear, but others don't. It meant more to me that people saw that I worked hard and that smart was something I could always become and that anyone could become. And with grit, I saw that value reflected right back at me. I wanted it to envelop every other aspect of my character. How kind or empathetic I could be to others could increase. My ability to cope with a loss in a cross-country or track race and rally to run harder the next time. My preparation for any occasion, be it fancy like this one, scholarly, recreational, or otherwise, could be refined. There was time to relish in an accomplishment and my good deeds, but it should always be short because there was always more to do. They say that a lot of the best work done for people in this world is thankless, or that the implications of that work aren't seen or felt much later than the initial moment of its completion. That idea was indicative of what I was learning in our expeditions. We were able to tie all of our classes into real-world applications and see how everything was connected. We went into the community and made a difference. It's part of what sold my mother into enrolling me at this new school, an experimental one at the time, where things would be created along the way, whereas she could have just put me in another school with already established traditions and academic policies. We weren't just learning about how to calculate car payments and the physics of a car in motion. We were learning real-life skills and science that would aid us in our adult life. We didn't study chemical levels in streams and had a watershed conference or audit the energy use of elementary schools just for fun. We did it to learn a few basics in our responsibility as the future stewards of our earth. Every expedition, every writing assignment assessing our habits of work, and discussions both as a community and as smaller groups about social justice issues mattered because they showed us there's always farther-reaching consequences and influences than we realize. Brown wasn't even on my radar until we had a college scramble and I visited its campus, and then I had a talk with Dr. Mahoney. And the adjustment hasn't been as difficult as I thought it might be. Yes, the workload is difficult, and getting more brief, constructive criticism from my professors, as well as my first couple of C's, was a serious change. I have to study more and harder than I ever did in high school. Attending office hours and TA hours is a new habit as well, but it's a challenge I'm more than ready for. Everything can't be easy, and it never will be. But if you have the behavioral, attitudinal, and academic tools, like habits of work, which we love to call them, or a group work ethic, and you're open to that change and that criticism, then it can be less cumbersome. And one can see that they blossom in other areas, even if one area is rough to start out with. I've never been more politically and socially active than I am now, trying to be a leader with several racial identity groups on campus while making space for other people to lead. Starting a fishing club with friends at Brown that's never been had before. Navigating an on-campus job, dating, funding for my student groups, exercise, sleep, protests on campus, and social justice workshops are things I had never conceived of. It can be difficult, as Erica put it, being at a smaller school, a fish in a smaller pond, as the old saying goes, and then being thrown out into an open ocean where everyone is trying to make sense of themselves. Everyone's trying to figure out where they belong. I do wish I had more experience with interacting with a community this large, and also with the bureaucracies of running or being part of an immense student group. But I was never denied the opportunity to understand the basics of either at Renaissance and get a taste of what was to come. Neither was I denied the opportunity to dream big. Aspiring to make a 10-book science fiction series and potentially my own publishing company weren't things I had ever considered before attending Renaissance. But adapting to change, growing as an individual and community member, and striving for more are concepts you gain when you see those beside you, ahead of you and behind you, in age and experience doing the same thing, each helping one another. Sometimes all it takes is a chance to open a child's eyes and show them what's possible and how far it can actually go. Those aspects of crew and character matter. So much of teaching in other schools right now might be focused on test preparation. But with the model we have here, real-world application and importance is explored through expeditions and explored through intensives. Have faith in the model. Kids see that everything here is connected and that they can learn more and do more than they ever thought that they were capable of. Through this model of camaraderie, of character, and exploratory forms of learning, I honestly think that all of you in this room can make that chance available for many kids to come. Thank you.